Deebo Samuel traded to the Washington Commanders. The 49ers only won 6 games. One of the most disappointing seasons I can remember as a 49ers fan, with the expectations of returning to the Super Bowl and always hearing, well, let's try and run back to the Super Bowl again. That's always really easy to say. It's a lot harder to do. Deebo was one of the better 49er receivers during my time as a fan over these years, almost 30 years watching the 49ers. I saw the tail end of Jerry Rice's career with the 49ers, and then the Raiders years, saw all the years of T.O., and then I would say, just as far as receivers are concerned, he was the 3rd best receiver. We had some receivers with good years. I mean, I didn't see Dwight Clark. John Taylor retired about the time I was first began watching. Michael Crabtree, he was a very high pick. Overall, he was a disappointment. Deebo was a great 49er. It ended poorly. He had 4,700 yards receiving in his career. He had over 1,000 yards rushing. He had at least 20 touchdowns receiving and 20 yards rushing. His 2021 season was one of the greatest seasons by a 49er in history. Between what he did as a receiver and as a runner, he had other good seasons, but that was clearly his best. He was a Pro Bowler that season. He was an All-Pro that season. And it was another season where the 49ers just fell short, and it wasn't quite good enough. But I will remember him fondly, even though it was an ugly final season for the 49ers. And a big part of it was his play, his disappointing, poor play. It wasn't all on him, but it was a major factor. So many things went wrong, but perhaps a fresh start will help him with the Commanders. I don't know how much he has left, to be honest, because he's taken so many hits and head-on hits, and he's taken the hits a running back does. He's not a great route runner. He's just an average receiver. How the Commanders might use him, we'll have to see. I mean, he's a one-of-a-kind player, dual threat as a running back, as a receiver. The 49ers, in exchange, get a 5th-round pick. The 49ers actually do very well with 5th-round picks, so that's not as bad as you might think. But the 49ers could have traded him in the past for potentially a 1st-round pick, a 2nd-round pick. We know the value of receivers in the league isn't the greatest. But they didn't end up winning a Super Bowl with Deebo. Right? And the goal is winning Super Bowls, and they weren't able to get to the mountaintop with that 2019 group. And there's few players left from that 2019 team now. On offense, defense, now that Deebo's gone, I mean, really it's those cornerstone guys, Kittle, Bosa, Warner. They're the guys who are left, and Dre Greenlaw might not even be back. So times are changing for the 49ers, and the good news is the Commanders are willing to take the whole contract. We'll see how they approach the draft, the 49ers, with attempting to replace Deebo. I think the draft should be used on linemen, not just position players. They need help up front. They need help on offensive line, defensive line, just talent in their front 7 on defense. I mean, they just need to get younger, more athletic. faster, more powerful. I mean, they need interior linemen. They need defensive linemen. They need probably another linebacker. I mean, just having Nick Bosa and Fred Warner on defense is not enough. You can probably get a veteran wide receiver, or you can get a receiver later in the draft. I was throwing around the fun idea. How about a Cooper Kupp for Deebo Samuel trade? It wasn't going to happen in the division, but it would have been fun to see. The Commanders need to get more talent around Jaden Daniels. And this is an interesting one. It's going to be entertaining. Again, don't know how much Deebo has left. But the Commanders will be a fun team to watch. And I want the best for Deebo. You know, I'll root for him as a Commander. But it was time for the 49ers to move on, and we'll see what happens at receiver. Right now, it's Pearsall and it's Jennings. Ayuk could even get traded. Maybe they bring in Devontae Adams. That's a possibility. So there's a lot of excitement, a lot of news with the combine. The draft's not far away. It's going to be a different looking 49ers team on offense and defense. What happens with Brock Purdy? And the pressure's on for Kyle Shanahan to have a big year, to have a turnaround year, because you can only disappoint so many times. As much success as he's had, you can't keep falling short, and they have got to at least make the playoffs this year.